Welcome back, everybody. It's time for another edition of Silver and Black Today, your Raiders podcast covered on the Believe Network. Thanks for being with us. I am your host, Scott Branson. We appreciate you guys listening in. If you don't already subscribe to the podcast, please do so wherever you get your audio. If you're watching us on YouTube, subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and don't forget, hit the notification bell. Well, it is that time. The pads are on, folks. It is all about football now. And we got a lot to talk about here on this Tuesday. Of course, the Raiders in camp. And yesterday on Monday, we saw them in pads for the first time. That's right. Guys hitting each other. Real football, not shells, not shorts, not helmets. Real football, real pads, real stuff to talk about. And we want to jump into it. And one of your favorite people, Mike Florio, spent the weekend saying the Las Vegas Raiders have a plan to develop Fernando Mendoza by keeping him off the field, and that Maxx Crosby and Brock Bowers are going to notice. Albert Breer, on the other hand, stood on that same practice field and wrote that Kirk Cousins is still clearly the best guy at running this offense. Monday morning, the pads went on for the first time. One of the two reporters watched football. The other watched a clip. You know who that is. Monday was practice number 5, the first day in pads, as I said, in the sweltering Vegas heat. Now, I want to read verbatim to you because I love this. Verbatim what Coach Klint Kubiak said after practice. Quote, "We have a professional group of players. They care about getting better. We don't have any turds." We've got guys here that want to be here, that want to win, that want to change this place. Wow. I love that. That's a first-year head coach describing the roster he inherited by telling you what it isn't anymore. So let's start where the whole country is starting, where I told you they would start, didn't I? The quarterback. And with the aforementioned Mr. Mike Florio, I know how much Raider Nation loves and feels about Florio. And I want to start with what he wrote on Monday. So here it is. Quote, "We've got a guy who we can all tell at every practice is better than Kirk Cousins as of right now. But you've got this plan that you're going to groom Fernando Mendoza by having him not play, by deliberately choosing the lesser guy to be the quarterback." End quote. I know, Mr. Mike Florio, he is a provocateur. And with Raider Nation, I know you guys have a special place in your heart for him. And I want to focus on this. The word doing the work in that quote is deliberately. His follow is the part with teeth. Okay? So he did have a point. He asked what Maxx Crosby says about it, what Brock Bowers says about it. What Florio is saying and getting at here is this. Veterans on short windows do the math on a staff that knowingly starts the worst player. That's a real locker room risk, not a made-up one. That's, in essence, what Florio is getting at. But I don't think that's a problem here. It's not the same situation. Again, he's misreading it. He's trying to get the clicks, the attention, the provocative nature, the hot take to get Raider Nation and the rest of the country all fired up for those people who don't like the Raiders. Now, I want to contrast that to another national media guy, but someone who was actually on the field in Henderson watching practice, and that, of course, was Albert Breer. What did he say? Quote, "Kirk Cousins is still clearly the best guy at running Klint Kubiak's offense," end quote. So the guy watching from across the country, now I do that too, but I'm not making takes like that. The guy across the country makes a wild accusation and assumption about maybe locker room issues that could happen because Mendoza's better than Cousins and they're going to start Cousins. Makes that thing. The guy on the field says the opposite. Who do you trust? I know who I trust. But that's Florio's entire premise, contradicted by a guy who was standing there. And by the way, just because Breer also praised Mendoza, saying he was tireless, football obsessed, living in the building, and the scouting checked out. He's not carrying water. He's no water boy. Breer also pointed out. He also pointed out something I've said all summer about what Mendoza needed to get reps in on before he even thinks about playing. What is that? That is being under center with his back to the ball. Mendoza is learning to play from under center and with his back to the ball. You have to. That's exactly a skill a Kubiak offense runs on. Under center, wide zone, play action, off the run. Da-da. And it's the one skill you cannot evaluate in shorts because there's no run game in shorts. Right? No run game in shorts. Monday was the first honest look at the thing he's furthest behind on. Right? Being under center. So don't pay the Florio stuff mind because, and I know you probably wouldn't anyway, Raider Nation, but I'm just telling you this because Breer was there and he saw it. So, but I told you for the last several weeks that even though there is no quarterback controversy in this building on this team right now, the national media, because Mendoza was a Heisman Trophy winner, because he was the number 1 overall pick, they are going to go there. And they will continue to go there. So just be ready for it. Don't get angry about it. Just slough it off. You know that this franchise has a plan, and that's what you need to really focus on. Now, let's get into a recap of Monday's team session in pad. Team period, the first section of the practice on Monday opened with Cousins hitting Michael Mayer and Malik Benson. Then Mendoza got a few reps. Mendoza's first throws were off target. Raiders.com attributed it to adjusting to NFL speed in his first padded practice. Yes, he's a rookie. Sorry, I know people want him to, clear the water out of the Red Sea. They want to part the Red Sea like Moses. They want him to do all this stuff. He's not going to do it. Now, Mendoza recovered late. Cedric Jackson was his main target down the stretch from the reporting. Also, key was what the Sporting Tribune reported. Jordan Meredith had trouble on snaps to Mendoza. Meredith, of course, is the backup center. Linderbaum is the first-team center. That tells you exactly where Mendoza was working today, with the twos. No surprise. No need for a national headline that Fernando Mendoza is working with the second team. I mean, again, this is going to be sensational headlines for the foreseeable future, well into the season. And if Kirk Cousins has a game where he even struggles for a stretch, pan to the sideline, Fernando Mendoza. Is this where Kubiak goes to Mendoza? You're going to see it, so just get used to it and just ignore it. But here's what I like that Kubiak said after practice. He said, quote, there's a 60, 80 plays per game, so there's going to be ups and downs. There will never be a perfect game or a perfect practice. He's doing a good job, and I don't expect him to be perfect. Ta-da! That's what Kubiak says about Mendoza. And of course, that's what it's all about. It's about him getting comfortable, getting ready. They are not going to rush him, and you shouldn't want them to. And it drives me crazy when I see those of you guys out there in Raider Nation. No, you should play. We drafted him first overall, but you should play. No. Just let him go. Let him develop. And I'll tell you why. I'll give you some examples later. But again, I want to say here's where I think Florio is wrong with all of this. And it isn't about how good Mendoza is. Better at practice in July and better in a season opener are two different claims. And the only the second one pays. Florio's grading against a defense that wasn't allowed to hit anybody. The thing that has actually broken for Mendoza in this camp is preparation. Like the huddle, the clock, the pre-snap. Sunday, it was a 2-minute drill. So ragged that the staff burned a timeout and pulled the second team off the field. They struggled. It happens. Today, it was bad snaps. Or I should say Monday, it was bad snaps. That's not arm talent. That's not a guy who needs reps at the boring stuff. And a padded practice is the only place he can get them. Right? Now, I can see the stronger part of Florio's argument, the locker room argument, is real. And Florio's right to raise it. Maybe not right now, but it is. But Nobody on that roster has said a word about it, and Cousins has been the most respected guy in the building for 2 weeks. So it just bothers me when people make wild accusations. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it was Florio. I don't care if it was whoever. Name a national media source that's bigger than I am, bigger than you. I mean, it doesn't matter. And I want to point out something here. That's this thing with Mendoza. It has Tom Brady's fingerprints all over it. And stay with me on this. He wanted a veteran starting so the rookie wouldn't carry the building. He's argued publicly that starting a young quarterback immediately forces you to dumb the offense down. It just does. In fact, he was on Fox Business last week, and he said he's got to go out there, about Mendoza, he's got to go out there and earn it like everybody else. Thank you, Tom Brady. I mean, it's not hard, folks. No matter how much you want to see Mendoza get in there and play, because he's the future, yes. You don't rush him along. Cousins has said a FaceTime call with Brady sealed his decision to sign in Las Vegas. That's because Brady laid out the plan to him. He understood what the future was for the Raiders, but I'm sure Kirk Cousins and Tom Brady and John Spytek believe that Cousins has some left in the tank. And for bringing in a young quarterback who's a great guy to have there, not only to play and lead your team as the bridge guy, but also to quote-unquote mentor, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if I like the mentor word, but nonetheless, that's what it is. And it's funny because Florio thinks he's arguing with Klint Kubiak. He's actually arguing with Tom Brady. So I think it's Tom Brady fingerprints. It really is. I'm not saying that Klint Kubiak wasn't on board immediately or that he also isn't in favor of it. I'm just saying it's clear by what Tom Brady has said over the last year, not only the Fox interview that I mentioned last week, but go back to interviews last year. Tom Brady talked about one of the problems he saw in the NFL was teams rushing quarterbacks too long, that it happens too often, and that it's ruined guys. And I've made that case on this show this year. Go back and listen to it. Still, some of you disagreed with me, and I respect that, but I respectfully tell you you're absolutely wrong, and you will be forever. But one line of reporting says Mendoza sits the entire 2026 season. I'm okay with that. Another says he plays an extensive amount of football in 2026. Both cannot be true. The beat doesn't know. Anybody telling you they know the plan is repeating what somebody in that building wanted out there, right? That's it. Now, let's look at some history here for a second. Check this out, Raider Nation. Who was the last number one overall quarterback to sit as a rookie? I think you might know who he is. He might have worn the silver and black. Carson Palmer in 2003. He's the last number one overall QB who didn't start a game as a rookie. 16 have gone first overall since. All 16 started. Palmer didn't take a snap behind John Kitna in Cincinnati that season. Now, Palmer's career worked out fine. Hall of Famer? No. Nobody in Cincinnati spent 2004 wishing they'd played him in 2003. Of course, the Cousins as QB1 is a red flag crowd. That's just meat for them. They just got their best week. Florio handed it to them. But nobody complained when Patrick Mahomes sat in Kansas City. So you shouldn't either. And Mike Florio will continue to do Mike Florio things. Hey, and you know what? Some people love to read it. Some people will like it. Some people agree with it. So be it. That's why we have choice. Here's how you'll know who was right. Me, Mike Florio, Albert Breer, whoever. Watch how much under center work Mendoza does this week in pads. If he's still living in shotgun when we get to Allegiant on the practice on the 11th, Breer's work to do line is the real story and the rep count follows from it. And if he's still under center, 50% first team reps at the joint practice in Houston on the 18th, then the sits the whole year reporting is the true one. And the other version was spin. Plain and simple. That's it. So I'm tired of the quarterback discussion now. But I had to get that out there because I know you guys all got fired up by the Florio reporting. If you want to call it reporting or just opining, whatever you want to call it. But nonetheless, that's where we're at. So thanks for sticking with me through that. Now, speaking of guys who don't need a ramp up, of course, that's number 98, Maxx Crosby. Reports out of camp are his get-off speed has been unaffected. He had a few would-be sacks on Cousins, and he was routinely in the backfield. He was impressive in the run game, and that is incredible. The thing that actually needs a knee, like that you got to get that jump off, and you got to get in the backfield. 7 months off January 7th, meniscus repair. First day in pads, no pitch count, as I said last week. Maxx Crosby was all go. His teammate Thomas Booker talked Monday about Max's aggression off the line and that he was an unstoppable force. And you have to take this and laugh a little bit at the Baltimore Ravens, don't you? I mean, Maxx Crosby's not in camp, participating sometimes, not participating sometimes because he's trying to get healthy from that knee injury. No. He's not. He's out there. He is Mad Max in full regalia. Now, the Ravens, remember, they agreed to send 2 first-round draft picks, then rescinded their offer after their doctor looked at the knee. The knee he was dominating on Monday at practice. Then they go out and pay a guy way past his prime, in my view. They paid Trey Hendrickson 4 years, $112 million instead. This non-trade is not only something that could completely turn this Raiders season around, but it could be looked back on as one of the biggest boneheaded moves by a franchise. If Baltimore, if they don't get much from Hendrickson especially. I mean, think about it. Baltimore's doctors looked at that knee and blinked. And 2 first-round draft picks, they said, nah. 7 months later, he's taking every rep with the ones in pads in the Nevada Heat with no restrictions, and the team's own writer used the word dominant. You got to laugh. So either the Ravens, they either saw something that the Raiders didn't, and it shows up in November, not August, or Baltimore talked itself out of the best available pass rusher and then spent $112 million solving a problem it created. There's no third option, and Raider Nation has spent 4 months pretending only one of them is on the table. Now, as much as Max is a great player, realistically, camp reps aren't the test. He's 29 years old with a repaired meniscus on a team that will trail a lot in fourth quarters. Just saying. So before I get you too excited, we'll have to watch and see. But there's no denying Maxx Crosby is just a phenomenal athlete, phenomenal football player, and a true Raider, for those of you that live, breathe, and die by the silver and black. But of course, that's Maxx Crosby on one side. What about the guy opposite Max on Monday, Kwity Paye? Remember Kwity Paye? Per reports, Paye was in the backfield opposite Crosby all morning. Yay. And then, of course, guys I've talked about for the last couple of weeks, Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean are behind him. And you got to look at this. This is the first Raiders roster that could actually justify lowering Maxx Crosby's snap rate. We know Max has the motor, but he can take some downs off and not feel like he's leaving the team vulnerable. Now, I understand the motor. Maxx Crosby wants to play football. He lives, breathes, loves football. He wants to play, always. That's why they had the disagreement that resulted in his trade, right? When they took him out early last year. But I got to ask, has anybody in that building said the words snap count out loud? Because nobody has said them to a reporter. We'll see week 3 and 4 snap count percentages. If Crosby is over 85% of the defensive snaps in a game, then maybe they're losing by double digits. Nothing's changed, and we're having the meniscus conversation again in December. And I think that's a question to ask. Now, I know with Maxx Crosby, you have to bring it up. But I think that if Maxx Crosby, this is just me, complete conjecture guessing. If Maxx Crosby sees a much improved defense, if Kwity Paye's getting off and doing well, if Dean and Walker are doing well, the secondary, which I'll get to in a second, if they're doing well and this defense is playing as a really good cohesive unit, then I think Maxx Crosby is not going to have a problem getting a blow now and then and giving up some snaps. So we'll see. But I mentioned the defensive backs. And that brings me to the group I think nobody has booked correctly. Cornerback. And Monday, you have to talk about Eric Stokes. Again, reporting called him the most impressive corner on the field on Monday. Lockdown coverage on most snaps. He got a PI call against Jalen Naylor in a one-on-one rep and played angry after it. Stokes is certainly playing the part of cornerback one. That's what we've heard so far out of camp. But the part I would argue that matters more is he spent the day coaching up Jermod McCoy and Hezekiah Masses and went over releases with Trey Tucker on the sideline. Look, he's 27 years old, 5 NFL seasons. That is a team player. That is a leader. That's what the Raiders need, is those guys. And remember, that's a guy on a 1-year audition teaching the rookies who might take his snaps. You got to note that. Write that in your book and remember that. Stokes is stoking the flame of leadership, and he is right now CB1. So we'll see how that goes. Now, the CB2 job, and let's be honest, we don't know. I want to be straight with you on this one. You read all the reporting Monday, made Stokes the story, and never really told us who opened team periods opposite him. So I'm not going to make it up. But what we know through Sunday is Hezekiah Masses opened with the ones through day 3. Porter took it back Sunday, and Masses dropped to the 2s. Richardson, DeCameron Richardson, had a pass breakup and 2 separate write-up mentions from reporters on the ground. Albert Breer's observation was Darian Porter is battling 2 rookies for the right corner job. So that's what he said. And in my piece up on Sportsnot on Monday, I wrote about the weekend's action and said that that's what's happening. Now, Masses, to me, is the surprise. And using Breer's words, he's a 5th-rounder who played his way into the competition. Now, losing the ones back after 3 days is what a rookie corner is supposed to do. Getting there in 3 days isn't. Then, the guy everybody out there, I know you all are, is excited about, you have Jermod McCoy. Remember, Breer said that McCoy, this is going back to that, Breer said McCoy might have been, remember, Breer said McCoy might have been the first overall taken cornerback if he didn't have that degenerative knee disease. And the encouraging part here is he's now made it through spring and 5 camp practices without needing a maintenance day. That's cautious optimism. That is not a breakout. And Monday was the first day that knee had to take on run fit in pads. Okay? Now remember, on Sunday, he had a pass breakup on a slant, then a PI flag on a fly route against Shedrick Jackson. So Jermod McCoy, so far, so good, but let's be cautiously optimistic. Because, again, coming off that knee injury, he looks good. All sounds good. But we've had 1 practice pads, or practice in pads, I should say. Now, what's the rest of that room look like, right? Cornerback's a question. What's the rest of the room look like? Greedy Vance, he had a pick 6 on Sunday. He's playing both the nickel and safety. Jeremy Chin was one of the guys initiating contact on Monday. Tristan McCollum forced a pass breakup on Malik Benson with a He forced a pass breakup on Malik Benson with a really nice hit, timed hit. The first real pop of the padded practice as it was described. What about Taron Johnson? Is the chess piece in this defense. He's the star role. Nickel, single high, sometimes linebacker. He had his first interception of camp on Friday, and I wrote about him in that same camp recap piece that you can find up on Sports Not. It's also linked in the podcast and on YouTube. Everybody came into this camp arguing about wide receiver. That group actually decides whether this is a 7-win team or a 10-win team. That group is cornerback. And there are 4 drafted rookies in that defensive back room. Right? John Spytek, he didn't build a secondary. He bought a lottery ticket and is going to look absolutely thrilling in August or absolutely terrifying in Kansas City. Now, you look at that group, some may call the group young and athletic, but that's what people say. That's code when they don't want to say inexperienced. You have 4 rookies plus a corner learning safety on the fly. And that's an enormous, enormous amount of new communication. And communication is the first thing that breaks under tempo, right? It just does. So when we get to the preseason August 13th in Arizona, don't count the interceptions. Instead, count the busted coverages. More than 2 blown assignments in the first half against a vanilla Cardinals offense, and this secondary is a problem, not a party. Again, I'm trying to give you both sides here. I have a lot of cautious optimism around a bunch of those guys at cornerback. But then I also want to see it proved on the field. And it could go either way. But we knew that going in. It's a rebuilding year, so you expect ups and downs, and not everything will work as planned. All right, that brings us to the aforementioned receivers. Now, I've been putting this off. Jack Besh and Dante Thornton Jr., a second-rounder and a fourth-rounder last year, combined for 30 catches, 359 yards as rookies. Thornton's rookie drop rate again reported around 17%. Now, Cousins had some nice words about Besh the other day, very potential heavy language, but then goes out on the field and throws it to Brock Bowers and to Jalen Naylor, who he played with for 2 years in Minnesota, of course. Breer had some points that he made about these receivers. And when you look at Besh and Thornton Jr., what are you going to get? They have a lot to prove. Haven't I been saying that? Breer had some high praise for one of the receivers, and that was not Besh or Thornton Jr. It was Malik Benson, a 6th-round pick who's made plays. And as it's been described, I haven't been there, so I can't tell you what I've seen in person, but I've heard this too from some of you that have been sending me messages at camp. He works with a chip on his shoulder. So when the best national reporter on the beat is most excited about your 6th-rounder, that tells you where this room's at. It just does. And don't argue with me, well, they don't need a number. It's not what it's about. It's just about having some talent there. And I'll finish that up. I'll finish that thought up. Stay with me. Benson caught one from Cousins early in the team period, then got popped by McCollum for a pass breakup. Welcome to pads, right? So now the Raiders don't have a true X receiver. Are you with me on that? Yes, I like Trey Tucker, but the Raiders don't have a number 1 receiver. They are not going to sign one. And I think the honest read is that Klint Kubiak doesn't especially want one, right? As so many of you have communicated to me, this offense is Bowers, Michael Mayer, Ashton Genty, and whichever 3 receivers can run the right route at the right depth. That is a real plan. It's also a plan with a trap door. If Bowers misses 4 games, there's nothing behind him. And nobody in that building has offered a plan B. Now, for you, the just go get a veteran crown, has to name me the veteran in August at a price. Do it. Tell me. Adam Hill from the Review-Journal, he wrote a piece on Monday that framed committee production as fine in this scheme. Now, I don't know if that's analysis or rationalization written after the fact. Not sure. And going back to what Breer said about whether Mendoza plays comes down to two things. Two things. His readiness and the team's readiness to support him. Do you forget about that? This is the second one. A rookie quarterback with this receiver room is completely different than a rookie quarterback with a real X on the roster. So how are you going to know? If no Raiders, talking too fast today. If no Raiders wide receiver clears 55 receiving yards in a single game before week 6, the committee thing is a cope, and Spytek has a hole he has to trade for. Now, the fair question is, why didn't Spytek get a receiver? That's a question that may get louder if this team does better than anticipated and it really hurts them. And you're starting to hear that narrative. You're starting to hear a lot of observers, and again, it's August, the 8th month. We're still over a month away from the season. But a lot of the national media and analysts are starting to say, you know, this Raiders team might be better than we thought. And they all mention the brutal schedule, as I have in the past. But it's true. But if they're better than anticipated and a position group, whether it's the cornerbacks or, as I mentioned just a second ago, the wide receivers, then the questions get louder. But again, they couldn't fix the entire roster in one offseason. Now let's get down to the big uglies. With all due respect to all those guys, the trenches. This is where Monday actually mattered in my book. Levi Edwards over at Raiders.com reported the interior line has, quote, taken a noticeable step in the right direction. And Linderbaum showcased his worth at point of attack on day one in pads. So people got to see it in person. Then Burford and Powers Johnson on the inside with him. They're getting a lot of snaps together, which tells me that's your first team interior right now. The assumption is Burford at left guard with right guard. The job's still open, but Powers Johnson, Caleb Rogers, that's in that mix. The Powers Johnson and Caleb Rogers, right? And what we saw and heard and read about Monday's practice was Genty and rookie Mike Washington Jr. both broke off big gains, both catching it out of the backfield too. So that line playing better, it showed for the running backs too. In fact, Omar Young, of course, the Raiders running back coach, said this after practice, quote, today was the first day you really wanted to see my guys. Without the pads, it's the real easy to kind of go through the deals. It's more of a mental process, but today you got to see the physicality. I love how we attacked today. Thank you, Omar. I like that too. And that's what you want to see. You're expecting it out of this Kubiak offense. You're expecting it with those running backs. Boy, that Genty Washington Jr. combo, if Washington Jr. comes through like I think he can, boy, is that going to be a nice 1-2 punch. And with that line, if they solidify the inside of that line with Burford and Jackson Powers Johnson or Caleb Rogers, that's going to be great. That's going to change the entire dynamic. Now, the other side of the ball, the reporting said the D-line won the first flurry of the team period. So Kubiak went quick game and screens, including that Cousins screen to Genty that popped for a big gain. That's a staff adjusting inside practice. Wow, what a difference a year makes. And seeing, even in practice, the first padded practice, seeing a dynamic staff change on the fly and see it work. Now, on the defensive side, my man, one of the best names on the Raiders, Tonka Hemingway, was turning heads again. Again, Albert Breer on Monday said Hemingway was developing into a potential force at 3 technique. And the interior is where the Raiders are still eating the fallout from that massive Christian Wilkins mess. JJP Gaze had 2 would-be sacks Sunday. He's been catching the eyes of the media pool as well. And to sum up the offensive line, again, just to close it out, if Powers Johnson has a majority of first-team right guard reps by the Arizona game, then they've decided. And Caleb Rogers is the swing backup. If Rogers is still splitting time in Houston on the 18th of this month, they don't have an answer at right guard, and that's a week 1 problem for an offense built on running the football. You agree with me on that one? I think that's where we're at with that. So, good reports, again, very, very early. I'm just giving you the reports from Monday as you listen to me on Tuesday morning. But when it comes back to all of this, here's what I keep coming back to. Everything anybody said about this football team for 5 days was said about football played in shorts. Monday Night Football. Sorry. Yes, I'm very ADD today. Monday, they put the pads on, and the first thing that happened was the defense knocked the ball out of the running back's hands, and Maxx Crosby lived in the backfield. Love that. The second thing that happened was the offensive line got its teeth kicked in and then fixed it before practice was over. Imagine that. No Brendan Carroll up there anymore, folks. That's what the whole rebuild in one morning. That's like exactly what you needed to see. Klint Kubiak let a 5th-round rookie open with the ones and then took it back 4 days later. And today he stood up and said he doesn't have any turds on the roster. Man, I got to get a drink. I've been nonstop talking, haven't I? Welcome to Silver and Black today. But I'll tell you, Klint Kubiak, that's a man who's going to play, and I love this, he's going to play whoever earns it. Monday was the first day anybody could actually earn anything with the pads on. Right? By the next time I talk to you on Thursday, we'll have 3 padded practices on the tape. The first honest read on that offensive line, and we'll know whether Mendoza's rep count moved. Right? And everybody's waiting with anticipation, I get it. But what we learned yesterday on Monday was key. Now, Allegiant is a week out. Don't forget, $5, all of it to the Raiders Foundation. So go be loud. Go to the stadium and watch practice. Go be loud. Right? And this will progress. It's going to be really fun and interesting to watch how this camp continues to unfold. If it's anything like we saw Monday. Now, there'll be bad days or bad sessions, I should say. That's to be expected. This is a roster that turned over significantly. They have to get used to each other. They have to get on the same page. But already we're seeing the difference that this new regime, new coaching staff, and mentality has brought to this franchise. And if I'm a fan out there, if I'm a live or die Raider Nation resident, wherever you may be a fan, I'm feeling good so far. And again, don't get discouraged when you hear some other bad reports come out, because every camp, guys have good days, guys have bad days. What you want to see is the improvement. And that's the thing I mentioned earlier that stuck out to me was offense got killed. They went back to the drawing board, and by the end of the practice, they had fixed some of the things that they were allowing to happen, and they were allowing Maxx Crosby to kill them, and they fixed it. Imagine adjustments. Boy, how many times last year did Mo and I talk about got to make adjustments, and they never did. Now you have better talent level in most spots, and you have a better coaching staff. So already one padded practice, and you're seeing it. Now, I might come back to you Thursday and say, boy, it's been a tough 2 days of practice. I don't know. But I think overall you can see things are pointing in the right direction. Things are going as planned. And you got to be happy with that. So that's where it leaves us. All right. That's going to do it for this edition of Silver and Black Today on this Tuesday. Just a reminder to call in. I want to hear what you have to say. Tell me what you're thinking. You'll have, of course, today, Tuesday, Wednesday. Call me. Call me on the Raider Nation hotline. Call me to be part of the Raider Nation Court of Public Opinion, where you are the judge, or at least you're the lawyer making your case. Maybe I'll judge you. 702-900-7869. That's 702-900-7869. Or be brave, have some cojones, send me a video. You can email me that to mail@silverandblacktoday.com. That's mail@silverandblacktoday.com. I will get you on the air for our Raider Nation Court of Public Opinion on Thursday, and we'll go from there. I'm going to drop a live here pretty soon. I might end up doing it from my patio, smoking a cigar outside. No studio, no lights. Just me, a stogie, and conversation with you, Raider Nation. So stay tuned for that. But to do that, make sure you follow us on all social channels. On X, it's SNB, the letters SNB Today. I am also at LV Gully. And on YouTube, make sure you check us out, subscribe, thumbs up, and the notifications bell as well. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Oh, yeah. So make sure you do that as well. You can also find the video on Rumble and elsewhere, aforementioned Facebook, wherever else. It's everywhere. Just go look for it, Raider Nation. You're smart. I believe in you. You'll find it wherever it may be. But I appreciate you guys being here. Don't forget, do me the big favor. Make sure you subscribe to the audio version of the podcast on the Believe Network. Just look for Silver and Black Today wherever you get your audio. And let's get this YouTube chat going more. We had such great YouTube chats over the last 3 or 4 years. And I know we're just getting into the season. Things are a little slow as we get more into the season and talk about football. There's a lot of folks in there. We have a great time. And I'm always in there during the video so that you can chat with me and I can tell you that I'm right again or wrong again. It goes both ways. But anyway, Raider Nation, thank you so much for being with me here on Silver and Black Today. We will talk to you on Thursday. Go out there, be kind to one another, and thanks for being with me, Raider Nation. See you next time.